She doesn't just know what she knows. She doesn't know nothing, as the one who knows is you, Araki-senpai, and she certainly doesn't understand everything. Gaen Izuko merely knows everything. If you find yourself entertained at any point during the video, then consider liking, subscribing and ringing the bell, as I cannot explain to you how much such a small action can do for this channel. Also, if you want to support me further, my book Gaen Tooe Justice is available on Amazon.com. Anyway, on with the video. Gaen is the big sister to all, the head of the specialist network, and senpai to Oshino, Kaiki and Kagane. She is instrumental in much of the events of the series, especially those revolving around the first kin and Oshino Oji. And the reason she can be so instrumental in so many events is due to the influence she holds over the specialist world, and due to her immense knowledge of all things, as Gaen Izuko knows everything. Gaen, in a way, sees herself above others, a bit like someone playing God. Her first appearance in the series has her sitting atop a bridge looking down on Hanikawa through her phone camera. Not only is she looking down on people as she sees herself as above them, but she is also doing so through a phone, further symbolising the distance she sees between herself and others. The whole scene is very much centred around the idea of showing Hanikawa's weakness, and Gaen is instrumental in achieving that effect, by showing just how ignorant Hanikawa is with her words, and finishing off by completely overshadowing Hanikawa's usual phrase with her own. "There's nothing I don't know, I know everything." As she is above Hanikawa, both physically, in verbal combat and even in her knowledge, the thing Hanikawa is most defined by. Gaen completely shows her up. She shows up the person who is presented many times in the series as almost perfect, so no wonder she seems almost like a god, as someone above others, as she stands above the person who was already seen as almost perfect. This is also the reason she gets everyone to call her big sister, as she's making people see her as an older figure to be respected. She's making them see her as a person above them, as a universal big sister to all, one who should be respected and relied on by all, as she stands looking down on everyone. This is then further elaborated on in Owarimonogatari, with numerous shots showing her either on top of North Shirihebi Shrine, again physically showing her above people, or standing on a stage with the rest of the characters merely being an audience, hence not on the same stage as her. The best visual representation of this in Owarimonogatari though, is how in the anime we see her visually depicted as a person playing God. She moves around the other characters as if they are just acrylic figures. They are immobile, they are objects, they're just pieces to be moved around by her. She is a giant looming over them in the city, once again showing she is above them and further depicting her as a god looking down on and controlling the ordinary people. As what is a mortal who knows what they know, compared to a god who knows everything. Gaen, despite being shown above the rest of the cast though, does respect one person. She respects her own big sister, Gaen Tooe. One of the other reasons she is so insistent on people calling her big sister is because of her respect for her own big sister. She sees the title of big sister as an important and valuable one, due to seeing the title tied in her mind with her own big sister. Hence, by calling herself a big sister, she's not only trying to measure up to her own sister, but maybe trying to prove to the world she is important, as she is holding the title of big sister, the title held by the one person she respects the most. Now this may be a bit of a controversial opinion, but my interpretation of Gaen Tooe is that by saving herself and overcoming her own second half, the Rainy Devil, she came to realise the errors in her own thinking, the falsehood of her own catchphrase, "If you can't be medicine, be poison, otherwise you're nothing but water." As sometimes it's fine to be normal, and at least in my view, that's what Gaen Tooe learned, and that's why she settled down and married, as she was fine with just being water, which if true, perfectly mirrors Araki throwing aside his own catchphrase of, "I don't need friends, because if I make friends, my intensity as a human decreases." As both Araki and Tooe are people who had to overcome and embrace their second halves, and both throw away their foolish and flawed catchphrases after realising the errors in their thinking. If this is true then, and Tooe did throw aside her catchphrase for normality, then this explains a lot of why Gaen presents herself as above others. As she is trying to honour her sister's words, she won't be normal, be ordinary, she will be extraordinary and be above others, be it poison or medicine, she won't be water. Her sister may have fell into normality and become water, but she won't, and so she must become the big sister she idolised. She must become like medicine or like poison, as that's what her big sister aspired to be. If this is true, then it's quite a sad reality, with Gaen striving to emulate her sister, but failing to understand her. She knows of her sister's catchphrase, but she doesn't understand why her sister threw it aside. And that's why she never learnt the same lesson as her sister, to be content with being water, as she didn't understand anything. She strived to be medicine, not water, as she thought that is what her sister considered strength. But since she never understood her sister, she didn't realise that by doing so she was just going against what her sister thought of as actual strength. Which goes back to Owarimonogatari, where Gaen couldn't save Araragi as she couldn't understand his plight, even though it's the same plight her own sister faced. As then and now she doesn't understand, she only knows. Though keep in mind this is just my interpretation, which requires a lot of assumptions, and so if you disagree with this section of the video then no problem, this is just what I know and what I personally understand. Gaen though isn't perfect and she has flaws, the biggest one being that she only knows everything yet understands nothing. As already said, Gaen idolises her sister as her sister has the one thing she doesn't have. She understands everything. In OG Dark, she can't resolve the issue with Oshino OG. Despite being the lead with the specialists and of being a person who knows everything, she couldn't resolve the issue as she didn't understand anything. She knew of Araragi and his identity, and she knew of OG and her identity, but she didn't understand either of them nor their relationship. And that's why she could only think to exterminate OG, as that was the only course of action she could see, because she just didn't understand. She knew both Araragi and Hachikuji would meet in hell, she planned it, but she didn't expect him to bring her back to the land of the living, as she once again didn't understand. Anyone who understood these two and their relationship would know straight away that such a scene would have played out, but Gaen didn't, as she didn't understand. In OG Dark, Hanekawa says that whether she went to the North or South Pole, she would have been fine, as in either case she would bring Kagane or Oshino to Araragi's rescue. But why was this necessary, when head of the specialists was already present and involved? It was because once again Gaen didn't understand. Kagane talked through her fists, and after going head to head with Araragi she came to understand his true self, and as such she backed off, as he is capable of embracing even oddities as precious friends and family, and she understood that. Oshino on the other hand knows Araragi inside out due to the events of Bakemonogatari, Kizumonogatari and Nekomonogatari Kuro, with it being said multiple times throughout the series that Oshino sees right through Araragi. So if Eva had come to confront OG, the situation would turn out well, as both of the two understand Araragi, something Gaen couldn't do. Gaen, despite being the big sister to all, does in one case refer to herself as not a Noni-san, but a Tsunemoto. She calls herself Oshino's little sister. And now why does she do this? She could have called herself his older sister, and it would have worked out. Well, my interpretation is that she holds Oshino to the same standards as her sister, or well close to them. She calls herself a big sister as she is trying to emulate her own big sister. She sees the position of a big sister as one of power and worth, and so that's why she can't bring herself to call herself a big sister to Oshino, as it would put her solidly above him. But why is this the case? I personally believe this is due to the simple fact that Gaen sees much of Toei in Oshino, as both of them understand things rather than know things. Oshino is defined by his ideals of saving yourself. He will make roundabout courses of action and seemingly illogical actions in order to come to a resolution he believes is most beneficial to the parties involved. Gaen may know the parties involved and know the issue and know a way to resolve it. But Oshino understands the parties involved and understands the best way to resolve the issue with those parties' inner selves in mind. I mean, just look at the OG Dark situation. Gaen just wanted to exterminate OG. A solution had no consideration for Aragi's feelings, as Gaen didn't understand his feelings. Oshino on the other hand had recognised OG as family, an illogical choice of action that wasn't the most effective and didn't get rid of the threat of OG, but allowed Araragi to save himself. So at least in my opinion, the reason Gaen didn't call herself Oshino's older sister is because she sees much of Toei in him, and so doesn't want to put herself above him. Despite saying all that, she is still a good person. She saves people at the end of the day. The fact she resurrected Araragi after killing him being an especially clear example of this, as she will undoubtedly receive some kind of curse for doing so, one she will carry for the rest of her life. Although she doesn't always understand, she still knows enough to help people. After all, her job as a specialist is to stop issues before they arise. She is in a way then just a mitigation safety officer, though one for the supernatural. Overall, Gaen is a brilliant example of a character who puts themselves above others in an attempt to prove themselves, but fails in a way due to their inability to understand the one thing that made the sister she idolised so special. She didn't understand the importance of understanding, as it doesn't matter what you know or even if you know everything, as knowing is only half the battle. If you don't understand, then knowing is meaningless, and that's Gaen's fatal flaw. She may know everything, but she doesn't understand anything. Comment of the week comes from Cat Passness, and I'm so happy I'm able to keep making the analysis videos you want to see. If you have any opinions on Gaen or Monogatari as a whole, then tell me in the comment section down below. And if you have a suggestion for a future video, then again the comment section is funny enough down below. Also don't forget to check out my Twitter at SephTheSin for channel updates and just general chatter, and my DM's always open if you want to chat to me directly. Or check out my Instagram at SephTheSin_cosplays, and my cosplays are random anime merchandise. And if you want to support me further, then check out my book Gaen Fluid Justice, available at Amazon.com. So with all that said and done, I've been SephTheSin, the Definition of Geek, and I'm signing out. Stay safe, everyone.